Hello and welcome to another episode of Dread Skates. I, of course, am your host and guide to all things PEV, Scott Dread, and today we are taking a look at the Arc Aileron, perhaps the only board I would consider taking with me in a zombie apocalypse. Why is that? Stay tuned. But real quick, before we roll this new intro here, if you have any sensitivity to flashing lights, please do skip to the timestamp below, because there are a few in the following sequence. All right, let's roll it. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have a mic to drop. Hello and welcome back. All right, so as always, we're gonna dip into the specs real quick here, and then I am gonna go over what I liked about this board and what I think could use improvement. And then at the end of it all, we're gonna give it a dread score. All right, so before we get too deep into things, let's take a look at them specs. All right, so what did I like about this board? So let's start off with the deck, and I have to be careful here because I could run real long just talking about all of the cool features of this thing. So Arc did not make this thing in-house. They sourced these originally from a company in the US called 121C. Now, what 121C was doing is taking industry throwaway material from the aerospace industry and then repurposing it into these really cool carbon fiber shortboards. Now, we are fairly used to seeing carbon fiber in the e-skate market. What a lot of people may not think about, though, is that like any other type of weave or fabric, there are different grades. And I'm not going to name names, but I see a lot of manufacturers using what is particularly considered the lowest grade, basically cosmetic or reinforcing grade, which is like the T1000 range. So without getting into too much of the specifics, more so because I couldn't find any sources on the particular grade that 121C was using in these boards because they're different manufacturers that they source from. But what's really cool about the Aileron is that not only is it a flexible carbon fiber shortboard, it is also technically bulletproof up to a 38 caliber pistol round, which is just kind of mind-blowing. And if I can't get the clip up here, I will definitely include it in the link down below. What Arc has also done is gone in and designed their enclosure and truck setup around this deck. So it has a short, very simple enclosure, which also allows a bit of flex to remain in the deck. So not only is this an electric shortboard, it is also an electric shortboard that still has flex in it, which, unless you are going with a bolt-on kit, is something that's kind of a rarity in this space. So moving on from there, what Arc has gone and done is bolt a rather robust enclosure onto this and also include what I believe is to be the smallest production gear drive on any e-skate. Now, of course, it is a mono drive, but it is still a gear drive. So this thing has chooch out the wazoo. It is torquey, it is a rocket when you lay on the throttle, and all from this one little, well, actually not little, if you look at it there, it's got a massive 5095 sized motor on it, and it is freaking cool. It's like a little Dirt Devil Ferrari turbine in there when that thing gets spun up. So on top of that, Now, talking about the original version of this, which came out in 2018, by the way, which means this board would have been going up against boards like the Miles Dual, the Lou board, and of course, the Boosted Mini. And it absolutely demolishes all of those on paper in terms of specs. Now, versus price, who knows? But what's really cool is the original version of this with the belt drive only weighed 9.5 pounds. The only other board that came close was the SoFlo Lou board, and that still rolled in at a whopping 10.5 pounds. Now, the latest version of this board, or the last version of this board, the V2, comes in at 12.5 pounds, of course, because it has that gear drive and the larger 5095 motor. But that is just kind of mind-boggling to think how freaking light they could make this thing and still keep it viable. Also, that kicktail on there is not for show. It is still functional. You can tic-tac this thing around. I don't know that I would do tricks on it, especially because it is a bit older and I don't know how rough this thing has been ridden. I bought it from a collector. So I still use it kind of functionally to get around corners when I need to, but alas. One of the other things that really caught my attention here was just how basic it actually was. There's nothing fancy in there. There's no Unity, there's no FOC boxes, there's no really high-end components. It's just a simple 9S 2P battery with a FlipSky 4.2 VESC controller in there, and that's about it. Which is great if anything ever breaks on this board, or I need to fix anything, or replace parts, or upgrade. It's fairly simple to do so. So, kudos there. One last thing in the good section is a little blink and you miss it moment. Let's look closely at those wheels. Closer. Okay, so have you picked up on it yet? Let me break it down. So instead of using stock skate bearings like Reds or Bones or whatever, they have gone and put actual Japanese NSK sealed machine bearings in there. Now, these might be familiar to some of you in the DIY community because these are the same types of bearings that you'll normally find inside of the motors. They have got these sized for the 8mm axles on there, and what that translates into is incredibly low rolling resistance. I can breathe on these things and they will start to roll, which contributes to essentially less drag, which means better range. Now, moving on into some things that I think could use improvement. Now, I say could have used improvement, past tense, because unfortunately this board is of course no longer in production, and I bought this specifically as not only a daily commuter, but also as kind of a cool collector's piece. The range, of course, is one of the biggest things that you'll notice immediately. This is not meant to be a distance board, it's meant to do short hops, but they advertised originally 19 miles, which in reality is absolutely absurd for a 9S 2P battery, regardless of how low the rolling resistance was. You could maybe get that on a good day with a headwind behind you on flat ground going 10 miles an hour. Yeah, you could probably get 19 miles, but realistically 8 to 10. And I lean more towards the 8 side. That's about what I was getting in my testing. If you have any sort of like light inclines in your commute, it'll definitely start hitting the battery. And also, moving on from there, the fact that it is a mono drive, it is going to struggle on some more aggressive hills. So unfortunately, that's just kind of a fact of life with mono drives. They are less efficient than dual drives, and because of the design of the enclosure, I could maybe find a hobby wing controller that would fit in there if I wanted to upgrade it to a dual drive down the line, but honestly, that means I would have to take the gear drive off of there, which kind of defeats the point. So, and then that last bit, because it is a gear drive, and it is not a sealed gear drive, it is incredibly loud. It's not as obnoxious as say like a boosted, but when you're getting up to speed, it's very grindy, it's very clunky, it's very whiny. But once you get moving, it's, at least to me, quite pleasant. But everyone on the trail will definitely hear you coming. It is a very unique sound, so I'll put it at that. But other than that, I don't really have a lot of other problems with this. Arc put together a very competent, very technically capable board, and I think it's fantastic for just my little daily errand / grocery board. So, all right, so let's give it a dread score. And 3, 2, 1, boom, production values. So would I recommend the Aileron? That is an emphatic yes, if you can find one. Especially here in the United States, they are not very common. I only know of 3. One from the collector I purchased it from, another from whoever this guy is, and then another 2 that were briefly in the possession of this murder hobo. But other than that, yeah, no, like it is actually a competent daily commuter. I really enjoy riding around on this, and it just looks really cool. That whole high-speed, low-drag aesthetic that it's got going on with the F117 kind of stenciled on the grip tape and all blackout carbon fiber, it just looks sleek. So yeah, if you have the chance to get one of these things, and the price isn't ridiculous, I highly recommend snatching that up. That being said, the Arcboard team is working on a follow-up to their original lineup. If you want to see what those guys have been up to, definitely go and check them out. I'll have a link down in the description. But that's going to be it for us here. So until next time, stay safe out there, Blade Riders. Peace.